Morning, BookTube. It's been a while since I've done a tag, and I've got a bit of extra time this morning, so I thought I would sit down and do a tag for you. So the one that I'm doing is called the I Should Have Read That tag, and I originally saw this on Westvale Publishing, a blog. However, it is the author of this is Book's Nest, and I'll include the links in the description. So the first question in this tag is a book that a certain friend is always telling you to read. And the the one that immediately came to mind is this, The Only Life That Mattered by James Nelson. My husband bought this for me a couple of years ago, and it is a book that I do want to read. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So it is about Anne Bonny, Mary Read, Calico, Jack Rackham. So pirates. It's a topic that interests me. It's historical nonfiction. It's a biography. It's about women. So it's about pirates. It should be right up my alley, but for whatever reason, I just haven't read this yet. So he's always nagging me, saying, "When are you going to read that book that I bought you?" And I'm always like, "Don't rush me. I'll get to it." But yeah, so maybe this will be the year. But yes, that's The Only Life That Mattered by James Nelson. So, um, anyways, the second question is, what's a book that's been on your TBR forever and you still haven't read it? Define forever, because I have, oh, and the concept of a TBR is just something that I can't grasp my head around. I've got a loose structure in my head of books that I want to read, but if I have to put it into a solid list with deadlines, forget it. I won't get them done. So I've had a couple of books in my TBR for months. I've had some in my TBR for years. I've even had some in a TBR for the past decade. But one that comes to mind that is in my collection that I purchased last year, and it had nothing to do with the pandemic, is the Decameron by Boccaccio. So this is something that I would really like to read, something that I haven't read because I read mainly a lot of historical nonfiction. I don't read a lot of fiction these days. And I have the attention span of a fly. This is quite a thick read. I tend to read books that are much smaller than this, maybe 300, 350 page average. I do like to read, I like to cover a lot of different topics when I read. I like to learn, so therefore I like to keep things as short and concise as possible, just so I can cover as many topics as possible. However, the Decameron is something that I would really like to read. And of course, there's other books as well. There's so many that I could have answered this question with, but that's the main one, the Decameron. So, question number 3, a book in a series that you've started but not finished. So I found this question a bit difficult to answer because, again, I don't really read that much fiction these days. If I had to pick one out of thin air, it would be The Goblet of Fire, but that's when I was like in the 6th grade. However, I will say that I have actually been reading a bit more fiction this year than I have done in previous years. And this is sort of a cheat because I haven't even started this yet. I only picked up the book recently, but I've been reading the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. And I actually finished the All Souls trilogy, but one of the books that I did pick up was Time's Convert, which isn't in the trilogy, but it's the same storyline, same characters, same world. So yeah, I'm going with Time's Convert. So yeah, the next question is a classic that you like the sound of but haven't actually read. Plenty, absolutely plenty. But one that I will pick out is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I really do like Marquez's short stories, and in fact, I picked out I've got a few of these, but his short stories, of Love and Other Demons, I absolutely love. Of Love and Other Demons. His other short stories as well, but as I mentioned in one of the previous other examples, I tend to read shorter books just so I can go things quite rapidly, topics that I want to read. And again, I don't read that much fiction, so when I do read fiction, I want to make sure it's something that I can digest quickly. I'm not a very critical reader when it comes to fiction, and I think that perhaps I wouldn't do that book justice. But it is something that 100 Years of Solitude is a book that I would eventually like to read before I die. So, yes, shameless plug of Love and Other Demons. Love this. So, yes. Question number 5. What is a popular book that everyone else has seen to read, but you haven't? Sorry, I messed that question up. I'll go with 2. I'll go with the fiction and nonfiction choices here. So the first one would be fiction, and that's The Da Vinci Code. Never read it. Would I like to read it? Maybe in the future. It's just not something that really interests me, but everyone, when that book first came out, was talking about it, and I still hear it being talked about. I've never even watched the film. It's probably something I'd really enjoy, but again, it's something that I just haven't had the time for. But my nonfiction example, which is something that I have picked up this year, and I don't know why, because as I've explained, I don't read real thick books, and this is something that I'll never get through. Probably not this year at least, but I did pick up Grant, this chunker here. Mine's in bad condition. I do try to buy secondhand as much as possible, but I see this on every booktubers that I watch, at least, on their shelves. And it, American history, especially Civil War history, is something that I've been trying to immerse myself into more and more. And I picked this up because I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, oh yeah, I'll read that. No questions asked, and 6 months later, still haven't read it. But Grant, this is my selection for that question. So the next question is, what is a book that inspired a film or TV adaptation that you really love but haven't read yet? So a film that I really like is Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis and Sally Field. I love that film, and I'm sure you all know before I've even shown you the book what I'm going to show. This is even collecting dust. This is how bad it is. The book that I'm choosing is Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. I have actually started this, but I didn't get very far. I'm 41 pages in. You can see my little scrap bookmark there. And I started this maybe, was it last year? And I haven't picked it back up yet. There's just so many other books that I've picked up in the meantime. I will eventually get back to this, like I've said for every other thick book in my selection. But yeah, that's one that I've really wanted to read because I did love the film so much. And again, I want to get back into Civil War history, but just haven't had a chance to yet. Well, I have had the chance to, I just chose not to. So question number 7, this is the last question. What is a book that's all over Instagram that I haven't picked up yet? And this is a book that I've seen obtain mixed reviews. I've seen some of my friends rate it quite highly. I've seen some reviews that were quite critical, but the book that I'm thinking of is Mexican Gothic. I would like to read that, which is a shock for me because I don't really pick up that much fiction. Perhaps maybe it's just aesthetically pleasing to me. I think the cover's beautiful, and the storyline interests me as well. But I haven't picked it up yet, and that's been out for what, a year and a half, maybe longer. Maybe one of these days I'll pick it up. But yeah, So those are that was my latest tag, and this is again called "I Should Have Read That" tag by Books Nest. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this. It was a bit scatterbrained as usual, but maybe some of these books that I've mentioned you've also had similar thoughts on, or you've read them, or some of the books that I've mentioned you haven't even heard of, and you'd like to read them now. So perhaps there's some value in this after all. But anyways, I will leave it at that and say have a good day, BookTube. Bye.